No.
Yes.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
How in the world did I get the wrong scene already? That's not quite the same thing. In fact, two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you are smart.
I'm always smart, am I not, Mr. Worthy?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. That would leave no room for development. And I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we are a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Harbury. I hadn't been there since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And now I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit here, Gwendolyn?
No thanks, Mama. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Dear heavens, Lane, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specifically.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That'll do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, of there being no cucumber sandwiches, not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had some crumpets with Lady Harbury, who seems to be living entirely for pleasure now. Script and cut and paint. Who seems to be living entirely for pleasure now. I hear.
I
Here. Her hair.
I hear her hair is turned quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed its color from the cause I, of course, cannot say. Thank you for that cup. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Miss Farquhar. She is such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband. It's delightful to watch them.
I regret to inform you, Aunt Augusta, but I am going to have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. It would put my table completely out. Your uncle would have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he's accustomed to that.
The fact of the matter is,
It is a great bore.
it is a great bore and need hardly say a great disappointment, but the fact of the matter is I just received a letter from my poor friend Bunbury. He seems to be quite ill. They seem to think I should be with him.
It's very strange, this Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. Nor do I, in any way, approve of the modern sympathy for invalids. I consider it morbid. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged in others. Health is the primary duty in life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice as far as any improvement in his ailment goes. I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury for me to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last recital. reception, and one wants something that will encourage conversation, particularly at the end of the season when everyone has practically said whatever they had to say, which in most cases was probably not much.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious. And I think I can promise he'll be better by Saturday. The music, however, is a great difficulty. You see, if one plays good music, people don't listen. And if one plays bad music, nobody will talk. But I'll go over the program I've worked out if you'll kindly come into the next room for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It is very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think that they're improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds are thoroughly respectable language, and indeed, I believe, is so. Gwendolyn, will you accompany me?
Yes, Mama.
Cecily, surely your utilitarian occupation as watering of the flowers is rather Morton's duty than yours, especially at the moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar. Please, pray, open it to page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after one of my German lessons.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He had particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday. Indeed, he always lays a stress on your German when he is leaving for town.
Poor Uncle Jack, he's so serious. Sometimes I think he's so serious he can't be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
Perhaps that's why he looks so bored when we three are together.
Cecily?
Yes?
I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about the unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come and visit us sometimes. I think we could be a positive influence over him, Miss Prism. I am sure that you certainly could. You know German, and you know geology, and things of that nature certainly have a strong influence over a young man.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect on a character that, according to his own brother's admission, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I am not sure that I would desire to reclaim him. I am not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so shall he reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't know why you keep a diary at all.
Miss Prism, I keep a diary in order to enter all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I might surely forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Perhaps that is true. But I think that memory usually chronicles things that have really never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. In fact, I think memory's responsible for all those 3-volume novel sets that Aunt Moody sent us.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in early days.
Ah, did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever of you. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like when novels end happily. It depresses me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
Perhaps. It just seems so unfair. And was your book ever published, Miss Mount Prism?
Alas, no. The manuscript, unfortunately, was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. Do your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dear Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, I trust you are quite well.
Dear Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. And I think a walk with you through the garden would do her quite a lot of good, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, have you not mentioned anything about the headache?
Yes, I know, dear Miss Prism. However, I felt instinctively that you were getting a headache. In fact, I was thinking of that and not my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not being inattentive.
I'm afraid I am.
Ah, that is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet?
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He is not one of those whose pure sole aim is enjoyment. Like, as by all accounts, that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. But I shall not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Lutetia, Doctor.
That was a classical illusion, merely drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think, Dr. Chasuble, I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
Oh, with pleasure, Miss Prism. With pleasure. We might go walk as far as the schools.
That would be delightful. Cecily, will you read your political economy in my absence? The chapter on the fall of rupee. You may omit. It is somewhat too sensational. Even these metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrible political economy, horrible German, horrible geography.
Miss Fairfax.
Hey, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Conju.
Cecily Cardew? What a very sweet name. Something tells me we are going to be great friends. I am never wrong.
I like you.
I like you better than I can say.
How nice of you to like me so much when we've known each other such a comparatively short time.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
If you wish.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
If you'd like.
There, that's all settled then.
I hope so.
Perhaps this might be a favorable moment for my mentioning who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You have never heard of Lord Bracknell, I suppose?
I don't think so.
Outside the family circle, Papa, I'm glad to say, is entirely unknown. I think that is quite as it should be. The home, it seems to me, is the proper sphere for the man. Certainly once he begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes extremely effeminate, does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. So, do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolyn. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are here on a very short visit, I suppose?
Oh no, I live here.
Indeed. Really? And your mother, no doubt, or some other relative of advanced years lives here also?
Oh, no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh! He never mentioned to me he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. But I am not sure that I find the news delightful. I am so fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I've known you. But now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help but express the wish that you were not quite, that you were somewhat older than you are and not quite so alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak quite candidly,
Pray do.
well,
I think whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
to speak quite candidly, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor, but even then, of the noblest possible moral character, are exceedingly susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less than ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. If they were not so, indeed, history would be quite unreadable.
I'm sorry, Gwendolyn, did you say Ernest?
Yes?
But it's not Mr. Ernest Worthing who's my ward, it's his brother, his elder brother.
Oh. Oh, Cecily. You have lifted a load. No,
Ernest never mentioned.
Ernest never mentioned he had a brother.
I'm afraid they have not been on good terms lately.
Ah. That explains it. Now that I think of it, no man has ever mentioned to me he had a brother. This subject seems distasteful to most men. Oh, Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. I was growing almost anxious. It would be so terrible, had any cloud come across a friendship such as ours, would you not? You are quite certain, of course, that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite certain. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Dear Gwendolyn, there's no reason I should keep it a secret from you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the event this Saturday. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling! Cecily! I'm afraid there is some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will be in the Morning Post Saturday the latest.
I'm afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is very strange. For he asked me to marry him yesterday afternoon at 5:30. Should you care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. Dear Cecily, I am so sorry if it is any disappointment to you. But it is clear that I have the prior claim.
It would pain me more than I can tell you, Gwendolyn, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall feel it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we're married.
Do you refer to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On occasions like this, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for wearing a shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I am glad to say I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
Are there any interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Why, yes. From the top of one of the hills quite close, one can see 5 counties.
5 counties? Oh, I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town.
Quite a well-kept garden, this, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Oh, yes. Flowers are quite as common here, Miss Fairfax, as people are in London. Would you care for some tea?
Thank you. Detestable girl. But I require it.
Sugar?
Oh, no, thank you. Sugar is no longer fashionable.
You see that?
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen in the better houses these days.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I particularly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my nature and for the extraordinary sweetness of my disposition. But be warned, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I met you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I'm trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
Ernest?
Ernest.
Gwendolyn, darling.
I am Ernest. A moment. May I ask if you are presently engaged to be married to this young lady?
Dear little Cecily. What could have ever put such a thought into your pretty little mind?
Thank you, you may.
I knew there had to be some misunderstanding. The gentleman whose arm is presently around your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack? Oh.
Huh. This is Ernest.
My own love.
A moment. I have a question for you. Are you presently engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn.
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. Yes, to Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
You may.
I'm afraid there is some mistaken identity. That gentleman whose arm is presently around you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh! Is your name Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Is your name John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked, but my name most certainly is John. It has been John for years.
A great deception has been practiced on both of us.
My poor little Cicely.
My sweet wronged Gwendolyn.
You won't call me sister, won't you?
Yes. There is just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there's just one question I would like to be permitted to ask you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both presently engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of somewhat importance to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Oh, Gwendolyn, Cecily. It is very, very difficult for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life I've ever been placed in such a painful position. But I will tell you quite frankly, I have no brother Ernest.
You've never had a brother of any kind?
I have no brother at all. I never had a brother, and I certainly haven't the slightest intention of having one in the future.
You've never had a brother of any kind?
Never.
No brother at all?
None. Not of any kind.
Cicely, it is quite clear that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
This is quite an unfortunate situation for a girl to find herself suddenly in, isn't it?
Yes, go into the house. They will certainly not venture after us in there.
Men are so cowardly, aren't they?
The fact that they did not follow us into the house as anyone else would have done seems to me to show they have some sense of shame left.
They've been eating muffins. That shows some regret.
They don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
I don't have a cold.
They're looking at us. What effrontery.
They are approaching. That's very forward of them.
We must maintain a dignified silence.
Yes, indeed. It's all we can do now.
This dignified silence seems to be producing an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we shall not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolyn, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me this question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I may have an opportunity of meeting you.
That explanation seems extremely good.
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't. But that does not alter the extraordinary beauty of his answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, why is it you pretended to have a brother? Was it in order that you might come to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. Now is not the time for German skepticism. Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. It seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with Mr. Moncrief's answer. The very sound of his voice is enough to create complete credulity.
I shall forgive them.
Yes. Oh, I mean no.
True, there are principles at stake that cannot be surrendered. Which of us should tell them the task is not a pleasant one?
Could we not both speak together?
An excellent idea. I almost always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly.
Your
Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our
Our
Christian names, is
Is
that all? But
But we're going to be christened this afternoon.
For me? You're prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
For my sake, you are ready
I am.
to endure this terrible thing?
Gwendolyn, how absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. Where matters of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
Calling you everyone there. If you take your ladies out and romance them, why not take a little ride in my hansom? Says the shabby old cabbie, an hour or two pass very quickly for you. If my very weary beat never hurries, that's the very, very least of your worries. At the